Welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host, and this one is another marathon. We're going to run through all of the latest action from the men's Gaelic football across all four divisions, from the ladies Gaelic football, from the Camogie, and from the Hurling. So before we get into it, please like, subscribe, share and comment, all that good stuff. It really helps us out here on the channel, and let's crack on with this recap. So we're going to start with the Division 1 recap here on Play on GAA. The first game we're going to look at is Tyrone, 18 points, Armagh, 16 points. Armagh are relegated to Division 2, and Tyrone, their biggest rivals, are the team that have done it. But this game was an absolute battle. These teams are very, very even. They were level 11 times before Tyrone pulled away to win this game by 2 points. Armagh now have to pick themselves up for an impending Ulster clash with Antrim in just a fortnight. Rian O'Neill's injury was well documented. There was a lot of rumours about what was going on in the Armagh camp, but Conor Turbot came in for him and hit 3 points in the first 13 minutes. Darren McCurry, Dara Canavan and Peter Hart all led the way for Tyrone down the other end. Aidan Forker was fantastic as well. He hit a beauty outside of the boot. That was the pick of the scores in the first half. Darren McCurry hit his fourth and the last of the first half to send Tyrone in 8-7 ahead at half time. Ronan McNamee and Maddie Donnelly added to put Tyrone ahead even further before Stephen Campbell roared into the game for Armagh, leading them back into the lead. From here, though, Tyrone took over and pushed Armagh into their own half for the final 10 minutes, and points from Darren McCurry and Ronan McNamee got them over the line. Darren McCurry finished with 7 points as Tyrone relegate their biggest rivals. For Tyrone, they finished the league with a bang. You have to say, 4 wins. Potential, I know they didn't make the league final, but they would be absolutely delighted with how this league turned out. A lot of people were doubting them at many stages, particularly after the Roscommon defeat. And yet they've bounced back and they've had a pretty good league. And I'll be very interested to see now, can they go on and win the Ulster Championship and compete for the All-Ireland? That would be a great way to indeed shut the doubters up. For Armagh, it's not great. It's not great at all for the Kieran McGeeney era there with Armagh. It's not great at all for, what they're trying to build there, because you get this sense with Armagh that last year they were so close to getting into the All-Ireland semi-final, which they would have backed themselves to win, and then potentially an All-Ireland final appearance. They lose on penalties, and now they've gotten relegated, and it feels like this could potentially, if they don't manage it correctly, be a real death punch to this progress under Kieran McGeeney. He's been there since 2015, and last year was as good as I've seen Armagh in his reign, and I hope that they haven't peaked, because I really do like this team. The next game was the Great Escape. Armagh went down with Donegal, but Monaghan survived once again. They've beaten Mayo by 214 to 14 points away from home. They now secure a 9th successive year of Division 1 football. Conor McManus came to the fore again. The 35-year-old hit a goal and 7. His goal was the last kick of the game from a penalty. And Monaghan survive again. I mean, what can you even say about it at this stage? I definitely, if you watch the preview, we did pick Monaghan to win based off the fact that Mayo had a much changed starting 15. They had Jason Doherty at centre half back, which is something that they're never going to do going into the championship. Like, they've already, gone with the Loftus experiments at centre back. Doherty is one that came absolutely from nowhere. Monaghan got off to a great start in the 14th minute. Ryan O'Toole dispatched the goal for the Farney men. They'd already gone 3-1 ahead after 10 minutes, and that goal pushed them even further into the driving seat. They remained just a bit in front throughout the game. Jordan Flynn was fantastic for Mayo all throughout. But Monaghan at the other end had Stephen O'Hanlon, Conor McManus and Jack McCarron. With the last play, Henley got caught upfield and Monaghan won a penalty. And stopping a direct goal involvement was indeed Jason Doherty, and then McManus converted the penalty. Mayo march on to a league final now against Galway. They won't really care too much that they lost this game. They kind of, had one eye on the league final and then another eye on the Connacht Championship. But with the league final now, it will be interesting to see, is there an element of shadow boxing going on, or will both teams go for it? Galway haven't won the league since 1981. I think they're going to be desperate to win it. Mayo haven't won it since 2019. Max Day will also want some silverware. So I do think, especially considering the rivalry between the two sides, there's never a friendly against your biggest rivals. I think it will be one hell of a game. And Galway getting to that league final was only possible after beating Kerry by 113 to 14 points. A very, very impressive victory for the tribesmen, who had Damien Comer back in their side earlier than I expected him to be back, I have to say. Paul Conroy got a lucky goal in the first half that saw Galway lead at halftime by 1-7 to 7 points. He floated the ball in from 45 metres out, and goalkeeper Shane Murphy collided with the post and dropped the ball into the net. That proved to be the difference between the two sides. Rob Finnerty hit a beauty to make it 112 to 12 points with 10 minutes to go. Kerry did have a late goal chance. Killian Spillane blazed off the post, and then Bernard Power saved brilliantly from Sean O'Shea from the resulting scramble. Galway always stayed just a little bit ahead, and now they have a massive league final to play, as I was saying, and there will be a full preview coming for that here on Play on GAA, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. Damien Comer came on in the second half. As I said, he hit a crucial score in the 45th minute to make it 1-9 to 9 points. And I have to say, massive for Galway that they have Comer back. For Kerry, look, Jack O'Connor made no bones about that he doesn't take the league too seriously. They won't really care too much. They have David Clifford back. They've Sean O'Shea back. They've Paddy Clifford back. They're more or less at full strength. And I feel like they're in a good place. Maybe not as good a place as they were in last year, but definitely they're still probably the favourites to win the All-Ireland at this stage. The last game then in Division 1 was a pitiful showing by Donegal as they lose to Roscommon by 21 points to 9. And before going into this game, if you watch the GAA Statsman podcast preview that I did, do be sure to check him out as well. If you have not, the content he produces is fantastic. We kind of expected that maybe Donegal would give it a rattle. Maybe they just go for it a little bit. But they just were awful in this game. The only period where they were in some way competitive was the first 11 minutes, where it was 4 points each. Owen Bon Gallagher, Jamie Brennan, Quayle McGonigal, they all looked sharp in those first 10 minutes. And you were thinking, okay, maybe Donegal are just going to say, do you know what? The worst has happened. We've got relegated. Let's just give it a crack here. And they didn't. From there, Roscommon completely dominated the rest of the game. They finished with 11 different scorers. The Murtagh brothers, Enda Smith and Ben O'Carroll in particular were outstanding. Keith Doyle probably hit the point of the game. He had a boomer to make it 12-7. And then Roscommon just pushed on from there, hitting 9 points to Donegal's 2 in the rest of the game. Look, for Donegal, the soul searching continues. I mean, I've made the video on Jim McGuinness. I think they should absolutely bring him back. It's a very similar position that he took them over in 2011. They were in Division 2. They'd just been hammered by Armagh in the qualifiers. Look at last year. They got eliminated by Armagh and they're now relegated to Division 2. It's a similar position. I don't think maybe he picking them up halfway through the season just before the championship begins he'll be able to do anything. But definitely for next year, Donegal should get McGuinness in and trust him because he is the best manager that they have ever had. That is just my opinion. For Roscommon, fantastic league. Absolutely brilliant league. 4 wins out of 7. You think about their first 3 games, they were absolutely magnificent. A lot of people would have picked them to go down, but Davy Burke has done a fantastic job there so far. And going into the Connacht Championship, you know, Mayo and Galway will be coming fresh off that league final. Roscommon could definitely be Connacht champions at the end of this championship season. Now that is Division 1 finished, we're going to move on to Division 2. This is the Division 2 recap here on Play on GAA. Let's go. Dublin, 16 points. Louth, a goal and 6 from Croke Park. Dublin, in the end, comfortable enough, but definitely Louth competed with Dublin throughout this game. I was at this game, and I have to say, the thing that was the most concerning was Louth looked like Dublin's equals for long periods of this game. And it was only a burst in the second half of 5 points in a row at the beginning of the second half where Dublin put daylight between the two teams. And even a Louth goal from Liam Jackson, Dublin managed that spell really well and just completely killed the momentum, completely killed the game off. And then once Louth ran out of steam, Dublin picked off points from Paul Mannion, from Cormac Costello, from Paddy Small, and just ended the game as a contest. A massive bit of news was, of course, the return of Stephen Cluxton. He took part in the warm-up and he wore number 16 on the bench for Dublin. Now, Hugh O'Sullivan and Evan Comerford are both Dublin goalkeepers that are out injured, and Cluxton comes in as backup, Desi Farrell says. But definitely, when you look at it, there's no way Stephen Cluxton coming back in isn't going to draw headlines. And the Dublin team knew that Cluxton coming back would draw headlines. No doubt about that. But definitely, if you're talking about experience, if you're talking about what he's done in the game, Stephen Cluxton coming in to train with David O'Hanlon and Michael Shiel and Evan Comerford and, the like, absolutely no problem with that. He's the best goalkeeper that's ever played the game. If he's coming back to compete with David O'Hanlon for the number one spot, that could cause problems because while he is the best goalkeeper of all time, he's 41 years of age. I don't imagine he'll be playing for too much longer. So it'd be one of those things of, we do need to eventually trust one of these, keepers coming up like David O'Hanlon, Michael Shiel, Evan Comerford. And we definitely have been trusting David O'Hanlon in the league, and he has been fantastic, which is why Cluxton's return originally, confused me. Because I was thinking we're not necessarily in crisis in that position. But if Cluxton's giving his experience to David O'Hanlon, given everything that he's done in the game, that is only a good thing. And Dublin should be delighted that he is back. Louth were without Samuel Roy in this game. Absolutely no doubt Samuel Roy is their best player. But they were fantastic. Kieran Downey hit the opening score. Darren McConnell levelled it at 2 each. He looked sharp throughout. Conor McKeever should have hit a goal in the first half as well, but he hit the post instead. In the second half, this trend continued. Darren McConnell had a shot brilliantly saved by David O'Hanlon, and then Liam Jackson tucked away his goal. So for Dublin, it's one of those things where you look at it and say, Louth were able to cut through time and time again, and there's no doubt at all that Kerry, Galway, Mayo, Tyrone, they'll all be watching this game, and Derry will be watching this game as well, the side that Dublin now have to face in the Division 2 final. For Dublin, like on paper, 6 wins out of 7, promotion to Division 1, we can't really complain with that. But it reminds me a lot of how Cavan got promoted from Division 4 last year. We just did enough in every game, but we could have been beaten in games as well. We definitely could have been beaten by Clare, should have been beaten by Clare. We definitely could have been beaten by Kildare, and we were beaten by Derry, and we could easily have been beaten by Cork. You think about Brian Hurley's shot hitting the post in the last play of the game. So, yes, while we did get 6 wins out of 7, there is an argument to say there that we should have lost at least one of those games, and the script could be way different. So, yeah, while I think Dublin, promotion, let's take the positives there. From our performances, we do need to improve, definitely, if we want to beat Derry in this league final. And speaking of Derry, their last game in Division 2, and they will be annoyed about this, no doubt, because I've no doubt Rory Gallagher wanted to swish of 7 wins out of 7, but they did not get it, and Cork pulled them back for a draw, 114 to 114 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Ian Maguire hitting a 78th minute goal to snatch a draw for Cork. Remarkably, they were 8 points behind, and then they managed to pull it back. In the 53rd minute, Lachlan Murray's goal pushed Derry 8 points in front, but Cork somehow fought back. Just before Maguire's equaliser, Micheál Martin made a fantastic save from Shane McGuigan to keep Cork even in the game. Up until that point, Derry had been fantastic. Brendan Rodgers and Shay Downey with impressive points had them 9-4 up at half-time. And as I mentioned in the second half, Lachlan Murray's goal pushed them 8 points ahead in the 53rd minute. But after that, they completely switched off for the last 24 minutes, and Cork outscored them by a goal and 6 to a point to snatch the draw. So fantastic fight back for Cork, and honestly, a very positive league. You think about the performances against Derry, against Dublin, the two best teams in the division. They can be really, really proud of it, and they've picked up some really good wins along the way. Against Kildare was the one where it really stood out, even though at that stage we didn't know just how poor Kildare were going to be in this league. But then on top of that, victories over Clare, victories over Limerick. I think they'll be relatively happy with how this league campaign has gone. We're moving on to the next game. Then a very significant victory in Division 2, and it's for the Lilywhites. They beat Meath by 13 points to 8. A very significant win that pushes Kildare into the Sam Maguire and potentially pushes Meath to the brink of a potential appearance in the Tailteann Cup, which would be absolutely disastrous for the Royal County. Dara Kirwan led the way for Kildare all throughout with 5 points. Jack Robinson hit 3 frees, and Paddy Woodgate also chipped in with 3 points. Meath have finished this league so poorly. I mean, from the start, I was very impressed with them after their victory over Cork on the opening day. Very impressed with the 4 goals that they put past Clare. But then it all turned. With the Derry game, they were just absolutely awful. The Dublin game, they were terrible as well. They were lucky to beat Limerick. And then, they were lucky not to lose to Limerick. And yeah, they've just been poor. And for O'Rourke, I definitely thought he would get more of a bounce out of the side. And yeah, maybe it's a way tougher task than I even thought it was. The last game then in Division 2, Clare 218, Limerick 9 points. A tough day for Limerick GAA, a side that they beat last year in the Munster Championship on penalties when they had Billy Lee at the helm. They had all this momentum behind them. Now Clare have beaten them by 218 to 9 points. And you do have to ask, is the momentum entirely gone from this Limerick spell of GAA? Like, that's one of the things that happens with, our structure. I'm not going to get into it too much, but I feel like Limerick just kind of realised where the ceiling was. Are you going to win Munster? No, not really. As long as Kerry are there, you're not really going to win it. Are you going to win it more than Division 3 title? No, not really. And so I feel like they kind of look at it and say, where can we realistically go here? And going into the Tailteann Cup, do I think they could win the Tailteann Cup? Yeah, I think they could if they got their best team together. But the fact that Clare are going to be in it with them means that I feel like Clare definitely are in the driving seat there. After 14 minutes of this game, Clare led by 6 points to 1, and they never looked back. Just at the end of the third quarter, Mark McInerney was teed up by Daniel Walsh to make it 111 to 6 points. Emma McMahon and Aaron Griffin both chipped in with 2 points each in this burst. And in the 70th minute, Kieran Downs hit the second goal for Clare to top it off. And honestly, I really hope that they go and win the Tailteann Cup this year. Just for Colin Collins, for all the work that he's done as Clare manager, he's been magnificent. It would be a great result to get. It would be a great bit of silverware to get to represent this era of Clare football, which has been magnificent. They've got to the quarterfinals twice. They have been magnificent, and they should have got into Division 1 a couple of years ago, but that loss to Kildare was definitely the nail in that coffin. We're going to move down to Division 3 now. This is the Division 3 recap here on Play on GA, and we're going to start with Cavan 2-9, Fermanagh 1-14. Fermanagh clinched the top spot in Division 3 with victory away to Cavan, and definitely a fantastic performance by Kieran Donnelly's men, not just in this game, but in the entire Division 3 campaign. With 15 minutes left, the brilliant Ultan Kelm hit a goal for Fermanagh, and Cavan, up until that point, had been in the driving seat. They got 2 relatively lucky goals to be there. One after a lucky bounce off the post for a shot for a point. It fell to Jonathan McCabe and he punched it home. And the second was punched in from a short shot by Killian Clark. He was in the square. Shot came in for a point from McCabe. Killian Clark palms it into the back of the net. Fermanagh stayed with it though. Points from Ultan Kelm, Darren McGurn, Ryan Lyons and Ryan Jones all kept them in it. And after Kelm's goal, they pushed on for a very impressive victory. And they have been really, really good in this league campaign for Fermanagh. Kieran Donnelly looks like an excellent coach, and they continue to make improvements. And with Ultan Kelm in particular, they've got an absolute star there. I think he's fantastic. And if they can keep getting the best out of the likes of Quigley, Connor Love, Darren McGurn, there's something really building there in Fermanagh. I really believe it. And the next game then we're going to look at in Division 3, Down against Offaly. Down 118, Offaly 9 points, but Down still missed out on promotion. They were excellent in this game. The Kilcoo contingent absolutely coming to the fore. Eugene Brannigan with 3 points, Ryan Johnston with 2 points. They're engaged in this downside now, which is only a good thing for Conor Laverty's side. They cruised to victory in this game. Liam Kerr got their goal and they never looked back. Offaly never looked like they were in this game, simply put. But for Down, even though that they didn't get promoted, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. They get another year to build their side in Division 3 before they go up to Division 2, which is going to be an absolute shark tank next year. And with Cavan and Fermanagh also going up, it certainly will not be easy. For that league final, obviously, between Cavan and Fermanagh, don't forget there will be a preview coming here on Play on GA, so make sure you check that out. The last 2 games we're going to look at then in Division 3 were both dead rubbers. Westmeath pretty much knew that they weren't going to get promoted, even though they beat Tipperary by a goal and 13 to 10 points. Despite being a man down for more than half the game, Westmeath comfortably won this, and Tipperary are relegated without a win in Division 3. An absolutely terrible league campaign for David Power's men. Stephen Smith, the man from Skerry's Harps in County Dublin, he hit the opening 2 points to Westmeath, and Tipperary's best spell came in the second quarter when Jack Kennedy levelled up the game in the 34th minute. However, in the 50th minute, Westmeath struck a goal. Lorcan Dolan was found by Luke Loughlin, and he drove it past Michael O'Reilly into the net. Ronan Wallace was very impressive from centre half back, hitting 3 points. Ronan O'Toole hit 3 points himself. Westmeath looked good, but will be disappointed that they did not get promotion out of Division 3, I have to say, especially when you consider that they will be taking part in the All-Ireland Championship next season. While Tipperary finished their league campaign on a low, Antrim finished it on a high. Even though they're getting relegated, they beat Antrim by 3-17 to 3-12, beating Andy McEntee's Saffrons to finish off what has been a disappointing league campaign for Paddy Christie, his first in the Longford job. 2 goals from Keelan McGann and 1 more from Dara Doherty saw Longford end a dismal league in Division 3 with a win, as I said. Longford started brightly. Keelan McGann's first goal had them a goal and 4 to no score ahead in the 13th minute. Antrim hit back with 2 quick goals, but Longford retook control and led by 1-13 to 2-4 at half-time. Doherty hit Longford's second goal early in the second half, and with 7 minutes remaining, Keelan McGann hit his second goal and Longford's third to seal the victory. They should be aiming for promotion straight back up from Division 4, but that will not be easy because you think Tipperary are going down with them. They're going to be aiming for the same thing. And a lot of sides have missed out on promotion from Division 4. You think of Leitrim, you think of Laois, you think of Wexford, teams that would have been pushing for promotion that all missed out. And now they're going to be gunning for promotion again next year. So Division 4 will definitely be one to keep an eye on next year. And that is the wrap on Division 3. This is now the Division 4 recap here on Play on GAA. We're going to start this one with Leitrim 2-11, Sligo 1-15. The clash of the neighbours in Carrick and Shannon. And Sligo win a battle of a game, withstanding a late Leitrim revival to secure promotion to Division 3 under Tony McEntee, and they will be delighted with that. Leitrim manager Andy Maughan was not happy with the timekeeping. Simple answer. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. The backwards clock that is used in the ladies' Gaelic football, I don't know why it's not implemented in the men's Gaelic football. You'd be completely able to avoid situations like this, but they have their ways and they're not going to change until it really, really costs the team. I think that's what I fully believe. Until it happens in an All-Ireland final or an All-Ireland semi-final and really costs the team, we're not going to see it changed at all. Sligo led 9-5 at half time, and quickly hit a goal in the second half from Pat Spillane to push 1-11 to 6 points ahead. However, Leitrim hit back with goals from Barry McNulty and Aidan Flynn, and they crawled all the way back before Finian Cawley and Sean Carabine hit clutch points for Sligo to keep them ahead. Throughout the game, Patrick O'Connor was fantastic, a full forward for Sligo, hitting 4 points, and now they are promoted to Division 3. And honestly, I think they're going to push right on and try and get promotion again from Division 3 because I really like their style. They, great kicking game, great footballers like Sean Carabine, Pat Spillane, Alan Riley. They're a very, very exciting team. Patrick O'Connor was magnificent throughout as well. So definitely Sligo should be absolutely delighted that they got out. One team that would be devastated that they did not is Laois. And I don't know how they didn't. They beat London by 6-6 to 2 goals and 8 points. The goals coming from Brian Byrne, Owen Lowry, Mark Barry, Evan O'Carroll, Pádraig Kieran and Brian Daly. And honestly, at the start of the league, after the first 3 games, I just thought it was a given that Laois were going to get promoted at that stage. They'd gone away to Sligo, the team that I tipped to top the table, and they beat them by 6 points. And I was thinking, right, Laois are on it this year. But then the defeats to Wicklow and Leitrim were just completely, you did not see them coming. And yeah, it's really, really cost them. The Wicklow one especially, that was at home. That was a game that they should be winning if they want to get out of Division 4. And Billy Sheen will be absolutely devastated that they have not. There's not really much to say about this game. Laois put a beating on London. As I mentioned, the goal scorer is there. But they definitely need to get out next year because for Laois, the more time they spend in Division 4, the more they get cut off from the teams that are above them. And the jump between Division 4 and Division 3 is really, really tough. We haven't seen a lot of teams go up to Division 4 and thrive up there. Like Louth are completely an exception. You think, how many sides have gone up and come straight back down? Like Tipperary this year, like Carlow, Leitrim, like teams have gone up and come straight back down. And I feel like the jump between Division 4 and 3 is quite heavy for some teams. So definitely Laois need to get out next year. One team that has got out at the first time of asking is Wicklow. They beat Waterford by 2-8 to 8 points to ensure their promotion. Not a bad start for new boss Oisin McConville. This game was a pretty tight affair, but goals from Killian MacDonald and Dean Healy were the difference between the sides as the Garden County achieved promotion, and they will be absolutely delighted with that. For McConville, it's just a magnificent start to his career as a manager. And definitely for Wicklow, they'll be delighted to have him in because he definitely gives off this impression similar to a Davy Burke of someone who is really, really motivated and wants to get the top jobs and wants to bring Wicklow on to the next level. No doubt about that. The last game we're going to look at down in Division 4 then was Wexford 116, Carlow 13 points. Wexford finished their league campaign with a flattering victory, to be fair. This game was back and forth throughout, and a goal from Owen Nolan in injury time added gloss to what was a back and forth game, as I said. But Wexford did get the win. Ben Brosnan with 5 points, Mark Rossiter with 4 points. Wexford were impressive, but for Carlow, Darragh Foley is still leading the way with 8 points. Him, along with Jordan Morrissey, is the only link really now that was in that starting 15 to the Carlow Rising team in 2018. And it's absolutely mental how quickly that burst for Carlow has died out. And that's another thing when I'm talking about the system in the game with, regards to the Limerick footballers, realising where their ceiling is. It is time we look at it and give these sides something to play for, something that they can go and win in the championship, because these sides will never really win a provincial title. And definitely it's going into a deeper debate there. But if you look at it, like Dublin have won every single Leinster title since 2011. They haven't lost in Leinster since 2010. So how can Carlow really expect to beat Dublin, let alone beat, Kildare, Westmeath, Meath, Louth, these teams that are really, really up and on the rise. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, giving these teams something to play for. For Wexford, it's an impressive victory. But definitely, it's been a weird league for Wexford. They at times have looked like they've been made serious progress. And then there's times where they drew at home to London where you're wondering what is going on here. But definitely the standout result was beating Leitrim. That was definitely one that I didn't see coming, and definitely was a superb victory for Wexford. So that's the Division 4 recap, and that concludes the entire recap of the men's Gaelic football Division 1 to 4 of the last round of fixtures before the finals. And don't forget, you can obviously catch full previews of those finals here on Play on GAA. We're going to move over now to the Ladies Gaelic Football League, and we're going to look at the last round of fixtures in this league, starting with Cork 2-8, Meath 11 points. 2 first half goals for the Rebels from Libby Coppinger and Emer Kiley secured the points for them. Meath have only won 1 game out of 7 in the league so far. Just worrying. I mean, new manager in, Eamon Murray obviously no longer there. They should be a little bit concerned, especially when you consider Vicky Wall started this game. Emma Duggan came in at half-time. They're not really missing too many players that they're going to have in the championship. You think that of the likes of Orla Duff that have retired, Vicky Wall obviously with the AFL, how is that going to affect her going forward? So definitely, there's something to be worried about there for Meath. Cork, got those goals from Coppinger and Kiley. Cork's first one came in the 11th minute. That was from Libby Coppinger. She fisted in a short shot from Darren O'Sullivan. Emma Cleary missed a penalty for Cork. It could have been even worse for Meath as Monica McGurk saved that penalty from Emma Cleary. At the other end, Cork goalkeeper and player of the match, Sarah Murphy, saved fantastically from Shelley Malia. In the 24th minute, Darren O'Sullivan hit the crossbar, so Meath were wide open at the back throughout this game. Cork hit their second goal just before half-time from Emer Kiley and led 2-4 to 5 points at the break. Emma Duggan was brought on promptly, and she did get on the scoreboard as Meath made it 2-6 to 8 points in the 44th minute. And Stacey Grimes' freeze brought it back to a 3-point game, but scores from Kiley and Olivia Callan kept Cork that little bit ahead until the very end. And for Shane Ronayne, 4 wins out of 7. Look, they're not going to play in a league final, but I think he'll be quite happy with how this league campaign has gone for Cork. Another game in this league was Mayo 5-9, Donegal 3-2. Donegal's misery continues. This time they've conceded 5 goals to Mayo, and this was in Letterkenny. Mayo were 16 points up at halftime and made 17 substitutions in the game. Just a real embarrassing statistic for Donegal that Mayo can do that and still win so comfortably. Rachel Kearns got the first goal nearly straight away. In the 20th minute, Sinead Walsh, only on as a sub, scored Mayo's second. Lisa Cafferty was set by Tamara O'Connor for the third one, and Deirdre Doherty intercepted the Donegal pass to score Mayo's 4th goal in the first half. In the second half, the 5 was completed by Sinead Cafferty. Donegal got goals from Niamh McLaughlin, Katie Long and Cody Walsh, but the damage was done. This is simply just not good enough. It's not like Donegal don't have the players. They do. You look at the McLaughlins, Yvonne Bonner. I know Yvonne Bonner hasn't really played too much in this league, but Donegal have a good team. They have a good team. They beat Dublin last year in the quarter-final of the championship. There's no reason why Donegal should be losing by the score lines that they've been losing by. They didn't score in the first half of their previous game. Like, the level is not good enough, and I do think Donegal need to seriously look at why they are performing so poorly. For Mayo, definitely an impressive victory, but again, not really the most difficult challenge. Like, the goals that they got were quite easy, particularly the one from, I'm getting them all mixed up because there's 5 of them, particularly the one from Deirdre Doherty was the easy one, the one where she intercepted a pass from the Donegal defence. That was just a pitiful, easy goal for Donegal to give away. The next game we're going to look at then is a shadow boxing match for the league final. Kerry and Galway are going to play each other again in that, as they will play each other regardless. Goals from Louise and Murrah Hertig, 2 of them helped Kerry lead by 2-5 to 8 points at halftime. And Hannah O'Donoghue got the third in the second half as Kerry won by 3-11 to 17 points. However, the league final between these two sides is going to be really, really interesting. You've got Kerry's attack, which is just so damn good. Louise Murrah Hertig particularly spearheading that. And Galway, on the other hand, with the likes of Olivia Dively, really, really, really strong as well. The last game we're going to look at then, and of course, before we do move on, there will be a preview for that game coming as well on Play on GAA, so make sure you check that out. The last game we're going to look at then here, Dublin 5-8, Waterford 7 points. A hat-trick from Orla Nolan helped Dublin to this victory. They've had a solid league campaign, the Dubs have. I mean, same with Waterford. Waterford have got victories over the likes of Meath. They have been really, really impressive. For Dublin, though, they are clearly a side in transition. Sinead Ahern is gone. Lindsay Davies gone. They are definitely not the team that they were a couple of years ago. So they should be proud of their efforts that, they're rebuilding, getting another good team going there under Mick Bohan, who is definitely the best man for the job. You look at the teams that he has crafted over the years, the dynasty that he put together. They've been really, really good. The next one that we are going to look at here, that is the Ladies Gaelic Football League, of course, wrapped up. We're going to move on now to the Hurling League. We're going to look at the 2 semi-finals, one semi-final from Division 2A between Offaly and Kerry, and also look at the relegation playoff between Westmeath and Laois. But we're going to start with the 2 Division 1 semi-finals, starting with Limerick 128, Tipperary 25 points. Limerick produced another second-half demolition of Tipperary to set up a league final date against Kilkenny. In the second half, Limerick did not hit a single wide until the final minute as they outscored Tip by 115 to 9 points. And just in the second half, the pressure that Limerick had Tipperary under, everything was being played down Tipperary's end. The half-back line of Dermot Burns, Declan Hannon and Colin Coughlin was just unbelievable. They were winning everything that Tipperary threw at them in that second half. And bear in mind, Tipperary were so good in the first half. Jason Ford was amazing. He hit 14 points. Alan Tynan was magnificent. Gerard O'Connor and Seamus Kennedy were very impressive in the half-forward line. But in the first half, Limerick just stayed in the game. Cian Lynch kept the fight going, especially when Tipperary led at the break. Limerick took the lead for the first time in the 46 minutes from Aaron Gallan, and they never looked back. They pushed on, and the goal from Peter Casey was definitely a sucker punch for Tip. Amazing points from Dermot Burns, Colin Coughlin, Declan Hannon and Tom Morrissey all kept pushing Limerick on. Barry Murphy, I definitely think, is an impressive find there at midfield. Definitely will bolster their options there, along with Will O'Donoghue and Darragh O'Donovan. And speaking of Will O'Donoghue, he was quite lucky to not get sent off for that push of the Tipperary player's helmet. Definitely Limerick need to be careful because there's a lot of scrutiny on them, obviously with the Kyle Hayes incident and then down through the years, the Aaron Gallan incidents, etc. They definitely need to be careful here. And Will O'Donoghue was lucky that he didn't see red for that moment. But definitely it's a magnificent performance by Limerick. And they march on to a league final, which they will play in against Kilkenny, who beat Cork by 222 to 22 points. Kilkenny were in the driving seat from the start of this game to the finish. And goals from Martin Keoghan and a penalty converted by Billy Drennan proved to be the difference between these two sides. Richie Hogan came on for the Cats in this game and got a point. He's still got it. In the second half, of course, Kilkenny were awarded that penalty, which Drennan scored. Owen Downey was also sent off for a scuffle on the sideline with Paddy Deegan, Tommy O'Connell and Timmy Clifford all shown yellow cards for their involvement. And then, of course, the goal from Keoghan, already attached with the Drennan goal, pushed Kilkenny just that little bit ahead of Cork to victory. They now march on to the league final of 2023, a replay of the All-Ireland hurling final of last year, which was one of the best All-Ireland finals I have ever seen. For Cork, I don't think they'd be too worried about it. Pat Ryan now already knows that they've had some good performances and some good victories in this league campaign, and they can move on and focus on the championship now. The relegation playoff also happened over the weekend. Westmeath 324, Laois 126. Laois are relegated from Division 1 and they will be absolutely devastated with that. Westmeath's goals came from Joey Boyle, Niall O'Brien and Owen Keys, with 11 points also coming from the talisman Killian Doyle. At half-time, the Lake County led by 2-10 to 15 points, with Boyle and O'Brien's goals keeping them in front. Stephen Maher led the way for Laois all throughout, hitting 8 points. But then in the 63rd minute, when Keys got Westmeath's third goal, the jig was up for Laois. Enda Rowland got a goal for the O'Moore County late into injury time, but it was too late. And honestly, Laois aren't what they used to be. And definitely with relegation to Division 2, I would not be 100% sure that they're just going to bounce back straight away. There's a lot of work to do there for Willie Maher's side. Moving down to Division 2 in the hurling, Offaly 23 points, Kerry 19 points. The faithful county set up a date against Kildare in the Division 2 final, and that will be a game that I'll be seriously looking out for, because obviously, it's a rivalry there. It's a new rivalry. Kildare have been absolutely fantastic. You think there of the players that are coming through, the likes of James Burke. Kildare with David Herity at the helm have been making huge strides, but Offaly, this was their securing of their place in the Division 2 final. The faithful were 3 down at half time, but improved a lot in the second half, and Owen Cahill led the way with 13 points as they got over the line. Again, a full preview of the Offaly Kildare game will be coming here on Play on GAA, so make sure that you check that out. That is the hurling segment wrapped up. This now is the Camogie section of the Play on GAA roundup. We'll have 3 games here to get through. Let's start with the first one. Kilkenny 14 points, Tipperary 13 points, and this one was hugely significant, as with Galway's victory over Cork, Tipperary missed out on a place in the league final, and that would have been their first league final appearance since 2009. Tip looked to be home and dry as well. They were leading by a point with a minute to go, but 2 late points from Denise Gall snatched the victory for the Cats. A game that was nip and tuck throughout. The only part I thought there might be a bit of separation between the sides was in the 52nd minute when Cork Devan and Emer Heffernan put Tipperary 2 points clear. But Brian Dowling's side dug deep and remained only a point behind until Gall worked her magic and Kilkenny stole the win. Look, even though Tipperary have missed out on a league final, no doubt there has been progress made there. And as I said earlier in the previous episode, if any team I think is going to break into the top 3, if you like, in Camogie right now, which is no doubt Cork, Kilkenny and Galway over the last few years. For me, it's either Waterford or Tipperary. And I probably, honestly, would give the edge to Tipperary right now. And I said, even though Tipperary lost that game, Galway still had to do their part to make the league final, and they did. They beat Cork by 111 to 110. A 48th minute goal from Ailish O'Reilly propelled Galway into the league final after a 1-point victory. Cork seemed in the driving seat after a 42nd minute goal from Emma Murphy, and points from Amy O'Connor and Saoirse McCarthy throughout had them in a strong spot, but Galway fought back and the goal from O'Reilly pushed them on, with Carrie Dolan also scoring 9 points across the game, and her scores kept Galway strong throughout to get the victory. The league final now awaits for Galway, and there will be a full preview coming for that here on Play on GAA, so make sure that you check that out. It's going to be a good one. The last game then in the Camogie, Clare against Dublin. It finished 1-10 apiece. Dublin are relegated. They needed to get a huge victory over Clare to potentially send them down instead. It's a good point away from home. We were 1-8 to 6 points down after a goal from Emer Kelly, but the Dubs battled back. Very impressive spirit, especially considering, we were already pretty much down. We still found it within ourselves to come back and to get a point from that game. Look, Jerry McQuaid doing a good job there with Dublin. We are making strides, but my point still remains the same. We need to find other forwards. We need to take the burden off Ash Lamar if we can, even expect to compete with these top sides in the championship. And the last thing I'm going to touch on just before we wrap up here on Play on GAA, the recap. This also happened over the weekend. It's definitely something that we need to discuss here. The Cavan ladies football team withdrawing from their fixture against Tyrone. Now, they made it very, very clear. Team captain Nessa Bird, Lauren McVitie and Aisling Sheridan gave an extensive interview on the We Are Cavan podcast. And they stated that the county board were not honouring their commitment to the squad charter, which covered a range of areas of expenses, including gear, personal expenses, and player welfare. They've reported positive engagement since they did this, but there has also been potential consequences for their actions in not fulfilling the fixture. Look, honestly, this is just disappointing to hear that this stuff is still going on. I really would wish that, it would be equal playing field. And look, if the county board, met with the Cavan ladies team, and if they did agree, to take care of their expenses, take care of their player welfare, then they should be doing that. I understand we're in a time where money is definitely tighter than it has been over the last few years. But if you make an agreement, you need to stick to it. And at the very least, there needs to be transparency between the two sides. And clearly there isn't, or else it would not have come to this. So definitely, I agree with the Cavan ladies taking a stand and not being happy with the level of treatment that they are getting. And as they said, they've had positive engagement since they did this. What are your thoughts on it? Do let me know. Do get involved in the discussion. That is the full recap, guys, here on Play on GAA. I've been Seamus Brady. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Check out the previews that will be coming here on Play on GAA. And until the next one, guys, take care.